Hello, my name's Sue Lewis, and I'm going to run you through this presentation, which is an introduction to the Career Pilot Pathway Planner. And the Pathway Planner is a tool and model that will help you allocate guidance to young people according to individual need. We developed the Pathway Planner through a bid to the Careers and Enterprise Company nationally. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is explain the 3 stages of the Pathway Planner model, show you the data and reports that are generated when you've done that with the students, and explain how you can get access to the Pathway Planner. So just to give you a few overview bits of information about Career Pilot so you can see where the Pathway Planner fits. So Career Pilot, the main site, is made up of 4 zones. The student zone, and then reports created when students add the choices they're interested in the reporting zone. The advisor zone was got lots of lesson plans and materials, and then the parents zone where there's answers to questions aimed at parents. So the Pathway Planner is available to you for you to add on to the 4 zones of Career Pilot. And if you do that, the students will be able to use it in the student zone, there'll be reports in the reporting zone, and there'll be resources to help you deliver in the advisor zone. So just to explain a little bit about how Career Pilot is funded, in this darker green area, Career Pilot is funded through universities and Uni Connects and also a Career Hub. And that enables the 4 zones of Career Pilot to be completely free to any school or college in that geographical area. Whether you're in our free access area, you're paying your own subscriptions because you're outside that zone, everybody has to pay to add on the Pathway Planner to their 4 zones. And if you're outside that dark green area, you pay a subscription for the 4 zones, and then you can add on the Pathway Planner. More details about that as we go through. So Career Pilot's all about the 4 zones, and the Pathway Planner is about having a whole school approach to careers. So you can have Career Pilot. At the centre will be the students, and we've got activities for every year group. And it's all about trying to build the career management skills of young people, but also give them the information and advice they need when they're making key decisions. So year 9 will be about choices about their GCSEs, for example. So if you're a careers leader, you can have Career Pilot at the centre of your offer, and there's various things to help you. A 3-stage career process we teach to students so they can apply it throughout life. We've got 5-week career lessons all mapped to the CDI framework, and lots of other things that I'll show you as we go through. So it can then mean you've got one particular platform that everybody can be using when they're referring students to information about careers. So we've got the parent zone, as I said, for parents. We've got activities for subject teachers so they can align their subject more closely to careers. We've got activities for tutor time. We've got programs that could be delivered in PSHE time, and everything, of course, is leading towards personal guidance. So if they've been doing these activities from year 7, by the time they get to have guidance maybe in year 10 and above, then they know a lot about their career choices already. So that means as a guidance advisor, you can start higher up the food chain. So if you decide to have the Pathway Planner, you'll be doing that at the end of year 10, but usually in year 11, and that'll be about their post 16 choices, and then again year 12 about their post 18 choices. So this is Career Pilot. You've probably seen this before. I'm just going to show you the headlines. The bit I've just shown you, the homepage, is completely free, so anybody can use that across the country. But the advantage of being a subscriber or in our free access area is you can get your students to register, which they do straight onto the site. Then they're signed in every time they use Career Pilot, and that means they can access all the career tools. And that means if they're choosing a job they like, they can add it to My Job Sectors, and it'll also be added to their main report, which is here. But all that data is being collated and is available for you to view in your school reporting zone area. You have to complete a date sharing agreement with us, but then we give you access to all the data your students are generating. So all this is leading into the reporting zone. Just to explain the 3 key parts of Career Pilot, as I mentioned, a 3-stage careers process we try and encourage students to follow when they make a career decision. Start with you, what you're interested in, explore your options, plan your next steps. So Start With You is all about them, trying to think what are their motivations and showing them where those motivations might lead. So they could do start with a subject, start with a value, and then they get ideas of where that particular thing might take them. They could do our skills profile, they could plot their route on a qualification ladder. So there's lots of things about them. Then explore your options. They could do that in a range of ways. One of my choices is 16, and they'd see the different pathways, or they could search for courses or apprenticeship vacancies, or look at our job information, which is a very popular part of the site. We also have over 1,000 video stories on the site about people talking about a job or a qualification that they did. Just going to show you this particular page because it is the most popular part of the site. So there's lots of information about jobs, and it's really motivational for students to use this part of the site. So they could search for a job, or they could search by sector, or they can start with a value or a subject, or they could do our job quiz. We've also got a new thing, which is a green job entry. So if they click that, they'll see green jobs. But if they drill down to any of our jobs, here's our job sectors, or I could put in the word animal and see all the jobs related to animal. And I can see top line information here, but I can click and get full details about that job. Labour market information, is it going to grow? How much will I earn? But also lots of detail about the job, including a lot of information about entry requirements. Is there an apprenticeship pathway? If I want to do a degree, what one might I choose? And additional labour market information here, how many people are currently working in this job by region, but also live job vacancies. Now we know young people are not looking for jobs in year 9, but the more they learn about jobs, the better informed they'll be. And this is a nice bar graph showing where the jobs are in the country, and it's quite useful for students to see that, they might have to think about going to London maybe for certain jobs that they're interested in. So the third stage of our three-stage process is like plan your next steps. So you've got your full report, you've got your skills map. It's an ongoing little action planner. So you can set an action every time they do a careers session. And the action points are very easy to write. So for the students, they can see their report in 2 different ways. A dashboard, which is like a quick summary of all the things they might have done. They do need to have clicked on the things they're interested in to have this quality of data. Or they can look at their full report, which moves up with them manually. And even before we had the pathway planner, we always use this as guidance advisors before we met the students because we learned a lot about them. And in terms of Gatsby, if you know what the students are interested in, you're looking at meeting their individual needs. And a lot of this process I'm talking about will really help with Gatsby 8 as well. So the full report could be quite detailed if they've been tagging a lot of the things they're interested in the career tools. And the other thing you can do, so I've learned a lot about them as a guidance advisor or a tutor, but once I've finished my guidance advice session, I can write my report straight onto the site or agree some action points with the students, and they're visible on the report as well. And any other staff members get access to this student. You can control the permissions in the reporting zone. We'll be able to see this too. Okay, so I wanted to whiz you through Career Pulse so you got the context if you're not familiar with it. But what we're going to do mainly now is look at the Pathway Planner. So just to explain, there are different versions. There's a version for year 11 or year 12 in schools, and there's also a college version that college students can come back to every year. So when we put the bid into the Careers and Enterprise Company, we had to show how what we were suggesting would meet the requirements for Gatsby 8, which, as we all know, is a one-to-one guidance session before they're 16 and an opportunity to have a further session by the time they're 18. We also had to show how our bid met the requirements of good quality guidance. So this comes from a research report from the Careers and Enterprise Company called Personal Guidance What Works, and they identify 5 things that indicate good quality guidance. So it's integrated into what the rest of the school are doing. It's not just in a room somewhere. It's given at the right time for the students in a nice space, hopefully. But there's an element of preparation for guidance. Then there's guidance, and there might be some sort of follow-up as well after guidance. And obviously it's delivered by somebody with a level 6 qualification, which is a requirement for Gatsby 8. Okay, so this is the model of the Pathway Planner that we piloted and is now being used by over 100 schools. So to prepare for guidance, what we set up is a 1-hour session which is quite structured and is going to remind the students about all the next stage options. So you will have done all sorts of things in your school to help them understand about apprenticeships or whatever, but in this lesson we're going to just remind them of the next stage options and give them some time to explore those on Career Pilot. So in this 1 hour lesson, which we have designed all these lessons, you can just use them off the shelf. For the last 10 minutes, we're going to ask them through the pathway planner, which pathway are they thinking of? And they could change things later. And then if they're considering or definite, we ask them a quiz to find out how ready they are for that pathway. And that gives them a red, amber, green score. Career leaders, guidance advisors can look at all this data, use that alongside other things you might know about that student, and then assign guidance at 3 different levels. Then the guidance will take place. Career Pilot can be used as part of guidance, which is what we do, and the report can be recorded straight onto Career Pilot. And then in terms of good quality and having a follow-up, we've designed a 5-minute follow-up for a tutor or head of 6 to do with students, where they literally just ask them 3 questions. And wrapped around this model is at least one lunchtime a week of a drop-in session run by a careers guidance advisor. And that's a great resource. Students can refer themselves to it if they're still worried after their first guidance session, but also that's where tutors can refer them to as well. So it works really well, the drop-in session. So that's the model. We've piloted it. We've got lots of research results to show its impact. So I'm going to run you through how that looks in reality. Okay, just to say, we have designed presentations for that preparation session, the option choice session. So we've got them for year 11 and we've got them for year 12 as well. We've also got an animated video that explains how young people can manage their future career. And that identifies 4 things: know yourself, do stuff to build your CV and your skills, know all your options, use your supporters. And then in these presentations, we show them how they can do that. So there's different ways you can deliver the pathway planner. Number 1, you have to get students registered before you can give them access to the pathway planner. But then you could just do one lesson where they do the option choices, they have some time to explore on Career Pilot, and then they do the pathway planner. But we also have 5 career lessons for every year group with all the materials there for you to use, delivered through a PowerPoint. So you could, if you can allow 5 weeks for a careers program and you can have some IT access, then lesson 1 is when you'd get them ready for the session about their options. Lesson 2, 3 and 4 would be diving down and learning much more about those pathways. And then lesson 5 is when you would complete the pathway planner. And I would think if you could do the 5 lessons, when they complete the pathway planner, they should be better informed and hopefully you'll have less students who are shown as red. More about that as we go through. Okay, so here's an example of what a lesson looks like. So this is year 12. It's recorded as a video lesson. So literally you just have to click and put the video on, and somebody like myself will be delivering that session and telling the teacher and the students what to do and how much time they've got to do each task. So we'll run through the different qualifications, the different levels, we'll explain the point of decision they consider in the moment, maybe moving from level 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. And then in highlight, we'll go through each of the options. So I'm giving you an example of apprenticeships. So we're talking about what levels they are, where you can go for information, what key things you need to think about. Like, for example, you might have to go sideways rather than going up a level. And then we get them onto Career Pilot and they do specific activities in the different sections of Career Pilot that are going to be useful to them. And then they'll be given some sort of time allocation to do that. Then when they come back, we're going to be saying something like, okay, we spent the whole session talking about option choices. We've done all these other things about options as part of school curriculum. What we want to do now is ask you to complete the pathway planner, where we can find out what pathways you're particularly interested in, and then we can provide the support you need so you're ready to make a good progression. So they click here. It'll show them the pathways they can choose. So if it's a year 11 version, it'll be about post 16. This is the year 12 version, about post 18. They could say, I'm definite, I'm considering, I'm not doing. They have to have an answer for every line. If they're definite or considering, it'll ask them to do a quiz. And what the quiz is doing is really asking them questions about that pathway to see if they've done what they need to do or they know what they need to know. So in this example, this student is considering university level study. So we're going to say, have you discussed your interest in university with your parent or carer? Do you know what course subject you want to apply for? Do you know about the cost of university? And some of these they'll say yes, think so, or no. Now, some of those are red flags. If they don't know what course they want to do, or if they don't know about the money, those might be red flags. Other things will be a bit more neutral. So they don't see all the scoring, but what they get is a red, amber, green score about how ready they are for each of the pathways they're considering or definite about. So in this example, this is what the students will see. They're considering university, considering vocational, and they're amber for both of those. So obviously some gaps. And they're considering apprenticeships, and they're red. So there's obviously quite a few gaps in what they know or have done about that particular pathway. So everybody's going to get a guidance session, which is obviously a requirement for Gatsby 8. And in our pilot, we went by the definite pathway as the way we decided who got what. This student has got no definite pathway. They're considering multiple things and they're a combination of amber and red. So we probably get them in for the middle level of guidance, amber, to kind of explore that a little bit. Remembering we've got drop in if we want them to come back in for a short session later. So if they were definite and they were green, they'd get a 20-minute check-up plan. 30 minutes for amber, 60 minutes if they were definite about and they were red for a definite pathway. We also give 60 minutes to anybody who's definite about apprenticeships because they're quite complicated, or anybody with an additional need. Now we know schools have to flex often the times they offer, but that's what we used in the pilot and that worked well in that context. A few other things students could do, they can see a timeline, which I'm going to show you a bit later, which just shows where they are at the moment and what interventions they've been offered. After the first guidance session is set for them, if they're still worried or they want to ask an e-question, they can do that straight through Career Pilot. Okay, so it's all very easy for students to use, but what it does is generate lots of information you can make good use of in the reporting zone. So this is a reporting zone. If you've got the pathway planner, you get that additional pink bit, the orange bit and the blue bit to do with the main parts of Career Pilot. So the pink bit is where you can see your results and bookings. So you can get a dashboard report for any group you've set up, a year group or a tutor group, for example. So just to show you around this a little bit, year 11 haven't done it on this occasion, post 16 have. So what I can see is what pathways the students are interested in and whether they're green, amber, red. So at a glance, I could begin to see, what I might want to drill down to a little bit more. I can tag whether students have any sort of additional need. So I've got choices. I could put additional need, pupil premium, educational health and care plan, and we now have a new one which is called Uni Connects, and that will be added on the student account. If you sign up, we'll do more intensive training about all these things. So you can do a range of things against the individual. So in the actions, which Rob is on the right, you've got various options, which I'll come back to in a minute. You can set up bookings, and once you've done that, they'll appear here. Green are the ones that you haven't done, and pink are the ones that you have done. So just to explain a little bit of the options you've got here. So all I've done is click on select option, and then this pops up for every student. Number one, I give you their answers. So what you could do is see if there's a common issue across quite a few students, like one school looked and saw there were 10 kids, if you like, who didn't know about the finance for higher education. So they invited them all to a drop-in and did a little session for them. So it's a good way of actually using that information. You can also see a timeline, which I'll mention, but I'll come back to and show you. You can book guidance. After guidance, the guidance advisor can write like a one-liner follow-up, which literally says the student's going out to this session with these particular pathways, and this is what they want to do. So A levels, and they're looking at business, history, and geography. And it can say how likely they are to get the grades. If the tutor, whoever follows up, does the 3 questions, then they can go in here and just click and say they've done it and say whether they think the student should come again. And that would just be to a drop in. The advisor report, you can access any previous reports from here, or you can actually write your own report from here as well. So bookings, dead easy to do. Call them whatever they're called in your school. An email will go to the students if when this booking is set up to the email address they use to log into CareerPilot. So you put the date, the time, and then you've got a choice of the type of guidance you provide in. So we don't put minutes here, but we say long, medium, check-in. If they dropped in, you can record that. If they self-refer, tutor refer, if they ask an e-guidance question, or if the parents refer them. And all that is going to appear on the timeline, which I'm going to show you. So once you've got lots of bookings, there is the option to manage your bookings, and then you can sort them. So these little arrows, you can sort them alphabetically by date or by types of guidance. Another nice thing you can do is say when students did not attend, and that will appear on the timeline as well. So it's a good way to show you try to offer an intervention and they didn't turn up. It might be because they were poorly, but it might be because they forgot, so at least they visually can see that as well. You can download all of the bookings, so you can make them into something like this. And also you can, if you've got an external advisor coming in, you could sort of download their caseload for the next session they might be doing. Shit. So this is the timeline that I mentioned quite a few times. So what students can see this and you can see this as well. So what it means is on the 28th of November, the student did the pathway planner and there were 2 reds and an amber, if you like. And then that was looked at and they got given a long guidance session on the 24th of February. What you must do after guidance is get the students to go back in and edit their pathway plan responses, because you're hoping that as a result of your intervention, they now have moved up, if you like, in this example. So the 25th of February, they now have 2 pathways rather than 3, and they're green and amber. So just to mention a few other things, progression follow-up I talked about. It's quite easy to do that as a guidance advisor. As they leave the room, you can just put in what they're saying as they leave you. So it might be they're thinking about definitely about university. These are the subjects they want to do. And there's a little option to add whether they're firm, lightly, or borderline for the grades. And you can add on another pathway if they're considering something else as well. So that's a nice little report you can share with tutors or heads of year. So everybody's helping the students to get to where they want to go. If you're the guidance advisor, there's lots in CareerPilot that you could be using. The report I mentioned earlier, the full report, then you've got the summary of what the students are interested in. You can see their answers. So as a guidance advisor, I find this very useful because I learn a lot about the students before I meet them. And I've got a range of things that I can talk to them about, maybe support them with through the guidance conversation. At the end of the guidance, I can agree some actions with them. I can write their report, which will appear on their full report as well, as I talked about earlier. So I mentioned the follow-up by tutors. So this is literally a 5-minute thing, and it's an opportunity for tutors to talk to the students about what they're interested in, see their report if they've got time to look at it, but also to refer them to a drop-in if they're worried about them. And this follow-up will happen about 4 weeks after the guidance has taken place. So we're very clear with tutors, we're not asking them to become careers advisors, we're literally asking them to ask these 3 questions. Are you clear about which pathway? How are you getting on with your actions? Do you feel you have the information you need to move on to your chosen pathway? And if they're missing a few actions, that's not the end of the world. They don't need to refer them for that. But if they're still worried about their pathways or they've changed their minds, then it's an opportunity for that tutor to indicate the students might need to drop in and have a bit more of a chat. So the way the tutors will do that, tutor follow-up, this pops up, they can say, yes, I've done it, and yes or no, the student could do with another session, which is just the drop-in. That progression follow-up report, the one-liner and call it. So that's a nice little report to share with other people who might be supporting the students. So by tutor group or by year, you can actually see the destinations your students are considering. And also you can see whether the tutor has recommended they get followed up. We get loads of brilliant feedback about the Pathway Planner. This is from the research report that was written about our project. Really good for identifying what people would call the grey students. The ones you think are going to be perfectly fine because they're quite bright, they're going to get good qualifications. But what this shows sometimes is that they're not that confident about what to choose. Sometimes they almost have more choice rather than less. And they was very positive about the whole process being quite straightforward to use. So just to explain how you can get access to it, if you're in the green area here, you pay £250 per annum to add Pathway Planner to your 4 zones, or £400 if you're a college. That then gives you access to training. We insist you can't, well, insist it sounds a bit strong, is a compulsory training session will last 2 hours, but that will help you set up the whole thing for your school. We'll give you all the lesson plans. We'll obviously switch it on for you, and I will show you how to access all the reports, and you will need to complete a date sharing agreement for that. But you'll also become part of a user group, so you can actually support the development. Lots of the new little things you've added have come from our users saying they would like to see them. So there's a whole tile about the Pathway Planner in the advisor zone, which is on the home page, top left. Click on that and you can go and find lots of information. If you want to subscribe to Career Pilot because you're out of that green area, I was talking about the free to use zone, then you can have the 4 zones will be $599 per annum. And if you add on the Pathway Planner, then it's $799 per annum. So essentially the Pathway Planners are only £200 if you put them both together. For colleges, it's more, and for SEND schools, it's less. Probably best to get in touch to find out if you need to know more. So just a few other things. The advisor zone's got all the lesson plans and materials to deliver Career Pilot right from year 7, but also the Pathway Planner as well. And as I said, a whole tile about the Pathway Planner. The Careers Leader portal's got lots of maps to show how Career Pilot maps to Gatsby and how you can use it when you're doing your Compass assessments. You can request access to the reporting zone here. If you want to know more about how to subscribe, you can do that here. And then we've got lots of lesson plans, including 5-week career lessons for every year group, and lots more besides. I'm just flashing a few up. These are our 5-week career lessons for every year group, all delivered through a PowerPoint, and they're all mapped to the CDI framework and also to Gatsby and the Skills Builder as well. And we've got lots of activities you could do. There's our video, which I mentioned earlier. Things you could do in tutor time that are just fun but careers related, don't require a computer. Hot job poster packs. You can put posters around the classroom. It's a pack about the NHS, about green jobs, and now one about digital and IT. And for some of those hot job posters, we have 20-minute activities where you can drill down into some of those jobs. And we've also got activities for subject teachers so they can align their subject more closely with careers. Got 23 for Key Stage 4 and 23 for Key Stage 5. So if you're interested in signing up for the Pathway Planner, and this is what you will need to do, you'll need to go to careerpilot.org.uk and then the advisor zone, which is here, open up that tile, the Pathway Planner, and on the first page it's got information about the Pathway Planner, but there's also a link where you can sign up. And when you sign up, it'll ask you which training session you want to come on, and it'll ask you who's going to pay for your subscription costs. Actually, there's more training courses coming up now, which I'll show you in a minute. We offer lots of free webinars. You can find out more about Career Pilot and the Pathway Planner. So if you go to the advisor zone, there's a tile which is called free training. If you're a subscriber, you can have some in-school training, all done through Teams, but we can train your whole staff team. If you become what we call a super user by hitting 3 criteria, information's in the advisor zone, then we offer live parents sessions that you can invite your parents to. We can do a one-to-one consultation to help you set Career Pilot up, but also to help you think about how you can reference it as part of Gatsby, which would be useful for Ofsted. And we've got, as I said, lots of video lessons for the Pathway Planner. We also run a program of free webinars. This is an introduction to the Pathway Planner, but we've got various other ones as well, and they're all on our advisor zone in the free training tile. We also have a helpline, which is available from 9 to 3 in term time, mostly Monday to Thursday. And Joe on the helpline is your first point of contact if you want to ask a question, get a date chain agreement, or whatever you might want to know. So definitely get that email address written down, because Joe's a really useful contact. If you want to know more about the Pathway Planner, just get in touch with the helpline and Joe will be there to help you. So thank you so much for listening, and good luck with all your careers work.